welcome to A Gay and a Non-Gay. I'm James Barr, I'm gay, and that's Dan Hudson, he's non-gay.
Yes.
Are you enjoying my Australian accent?
Yes.
Did I even talk about Australia on the podcast?
Yes.
Did I?
Yes.
I don't remember talking about Australia.
You did.
What did I say?
We did a whole episode about it.
Did I?
But we were both, well, you were jet lagged.
Right, that
and
makes sense.
I was also. But...
Well, I had an amazing time in Australia. I met like a really hot guy. Did I tell you that I fell in love?
No, but...
Okay, I did fall in love. And I do think I have undiagnosed ADHD. Just saying. So, let's get the podcast started.
Yes. It's going to be a short episode today because...
Because we're running out of time? Or...
well, no, because I haven't had time to do any prep, so James has been tasked with...
Yes, I have. But unfortunately, as just previously mentioned, my brain does tend to go all over the place. So, we might not even get through the prep. But, yeah, Australia was so great. Oh, my God, I'm going on tour.
Yes.
I need to talk about that. I'm going on a UK tour, guys.
Yeah.
And I would love to see you. So if you're a listener to our podcast, please check out my tour dates because I could be coming to a city near you. I'm doing Hull, Nottingham, Bristol, Weston-super-Mare, Plymouth, Brighton, Manchester. I think that's everything.
You're doing Nottingham, right?
At the moment. And Nottingham.
I know that because you chose to do the East Midlands and not the West Midlands, right?
Oh, no. That's shade, isn't
Why
it?
is
Sorry, you say chose like I chose these myself.
Well, who chose?
Well, it was kind of me, but it was also not me, really. It was like places that had offered me shows. So I just sort of went with the easy option for now.
Right.
But I will be adding more dates.
Okay.
Definitely.
Right.
Including Birmingham.
Oh, really?
Of course, the mothership.
Where's that going to be?
I don't know yet, but
Right.
I'm hoping you can help that one and help me out with that one. So I would love it if you came. Go to jamesbarcomedy.com to check out my tour dates, and hopefully I'll extend the tour and do some other dates, including Birmingham, in due course. Back to today's episode. We always start A Gay and a Non-Gay with a question from the straights, and today it's a question from a straight woman.
Ooh.
I assume.
Yes, this is from Abby. Hello, Abby. I've recently watched White Lotus, formerly known as The White Lotus. Why are gays online obsessed with the incest?
Right.
Well, firstly, no spoilers. I've watched like 3 episodes.
How am I going to answer this? Well, that's your problem. They've been
Well,
out
yes,
for
it
weeks
is my
now.
problem.
They've
It is
been
my-
out for weeks now.
Yeah, but-
you should really have spent some time if you care that much about it.
Well, no, here's the problem. I'm logged into HBO in America.
Yes, you've got to wait till you go back there.
Yeah.
Don't be ridiculous.
Well, how's that being ridiculous?
Just borrow someone else's login or use a VPN.
Every time I ask to borrow someone's login, they always say, no, why can't you just pay for it?
I would say, Abby, it's not just gay people that are obsessed with incest. I think that's unfair.
Who is obsessed with incest?
Abby wrote, why are gays
Yeah, I can see
obsessed
that.
with the incest?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's unfair, isn't it?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, I have seen a lot of gay people commenting on the incest. Like, I saw this very funny meme, call me by your same last name, which is great. But, like the movie, Call Me By Your Name.
Yeah.
But everyone's obsessed with incest. There's so much of the porn industry is based on incest. You're always watching, like, stepmom porn. And
That's not incest.
Like sister porn, aren't you?
Well, hang on. Firstly, no. And secondly...
Wait, stepmom
someone-
isn't incest?
You're not related. One is not related
Yeah, but
to...
it's close, isn't it? Stepdad porn, it's too much.
It's not really close.
It's definitely in the if you were to click incest, it's definitely up there.
I'm not sure about that.
Well, I haven't clicked incest. I don't even know if that is a tab actually, but it must be. Twins is definitely a thing, like the Czech twins.
Yeah, but the
you
Czech...
probably don't know who they are.
Well, I've heard you go on about them, but
Have
presumably...
I gone on about them before?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so embarrassing.
Presumably the Czech twins are not doing each other.
Well, they get close, but then the camera cuts. I mean, I've only seen them on Instagram, so
Right.
I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, it's an interesting one. So it's not just gay people that are obsessed with like brothers having sex or wanking each other off. It's for incest's for everyone.
Thanks for your question.
Don't you feel that?
No, I haven't... No.
What about, okay, 2 female twins making out. Is that hot or not? Thank you. Okay, so Dan has just entered the studio after being on BBC Radio 5 Live, which is a big national radio station in the UK that talks about loads of news. And this is a slight segue from our incest opening.
Right.
Because we're about to talk about something pretty serious. And listeners to our show might remember recently that Dan's mum sadly passed away. And the reason Dan was on 5 Live was to discuss that and some of the malpractice that potentially took place.
So here is the ins and outs of it then. My mum had breast cancer in 2003. She had a mammogram where the surgeon left some of it still in.
Deliberately.
That is a legal minefield that I'm avoiding, but
I apologize for asking the question.
He left that in, and then subsequently the cancer returned 3 times, and then she died 3 years ago last week. So that's what's going on. The surgeon in question is a guy called Dr. Ian Paterson, who's been locked up for 20 years for doing this to other women. He's due out in 2027, and in the meantime, there is a whole other load of inquests into some other women, of which my mum is one. And that's something in a coroner's court. And what that means is you can't be sent down or anything. The coroner just goes through all of the cases and decides whether the police will then decide whether it's worth pursuing. So that's the situation that we're in. And I've gone on to 5 Live to talk about it, basically.
Something that's frustrating me that might not be bothering anybody else, but whilst we're waiting for this to happen, whilst we're waiting for a day in court, I think at the very least this should be heard in the court of public opinion. And it feels like I know I'm very grateful that we're talking about it here on 5 Live now, but you don't really hear much about this at all outside of the immediate Birmingham and the West Midlands, which is crazy. I mean, I speak to people about this all the time, and their jaw is on the floor when I explain the situation.
And the scale of it.
But for some reason, we're not talking about it. You know, if there was a Netflix drama with Stephen Graham, we'd be talking about it. It would be discussed in Prime Minister's Questions tomorrow. And it's frustrating that this is such an enormous scandal and most people outside of Birmingham don't even know about it.
I've known about this for some time. And I have been sitting on it for a while. And what's prompted me to be quite vocal about it is the fact that watching the post office scandal dominate everything for 2 days, 2 weeks. It's what anybody talked about in the UK.
Or more recently, Adolescence. Both of these are TV shows.
Just, yes.
Dramas based on... Well, one was based on real life. The other is based on...
potentially real life.
Like toxic masculinity and the effect of that on young boys.
Both of them very successful and to some extent have driven government policy in the UK. Now, I've been getting quite frustrated because this is a scandal. This is a huge scandal of medical malpractice, and it's not really getting the attention it deserves. I don't really know why that is. I do know if there was a drama with Stephen Graham and Netflix funding it, that's all we'd be talking about, and that's been frustrating for me. So I'm on a bit of a mission to, or just ask that question really. This is a conversation I have with a lot of people. Do you know about this? No. Oh, that's interesting, isn't it, that you don't know about it? Because it's a huge story.
Well, there's lots of things people don't know about.
Right.
But the reason I wanted to talk about here, and obviously you're welcome to talk about whatever you want here, but
Thanks.
Originally we weren't planning to do that. It's just that I was laughing because Dan was asked by the host, I think a few times on the show, how do you feel? And I know you so well. I can imagine that did not go down very well. How do you feel is a question I think you often dodge.
I'm not sure that I do, but it's...
Well, you do. I can already tell you how you would have answered that. I know what she was asking as a host, just because we both interview people all the time. I think she wanted some kind of like big emotional moment from you that she could use as clickbait or clip up and play out across the day. Like, oh, how do you feel? Devastated, losing my mum was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Whatever it is that you needed to say. And I imagine what you actually said when they said how you feel is something along the lines of, well, it's annoying, isn't it? Like, this is wrong. People should be talking about it. Everything you just said about Netflix and the conversation and policy and stuff, I imagine you went very factual about how you feel.
Probably. Well,
That makes me laugh because I like sharing that trauma with other people.
Right. But it's not really about how I feel. It's kind of irrelevant, isn't it?
I don't know. I think that's how people connect with you.
Maybe, but...
That was a good answer. I do think telling someone how you feel is how you can connect with people.
But no, I feel how I feel, and I feel how I said I feel. I don't know why I'm laughing. I was on the radio with this other lady whose sister was is one of these women that's whose inquest is coming up, and she's going to the inquests every day to meet other people because there isn't a system in place. She asked the lawyers to send an email out saying, oh, there's a support group available, and they didn't. So instead, she's the support group. She's going and meeting people at the inquest.
What an incredible woman.
Exactly. So it's way more important how she feels, in my opinion, than me.
I don't think that's fair. I don't think you should. That's not fair. You can't.
But you're going to get the emotional response out of her,
right? But you're not the editor in the situation, and in
well,
life.
I am. I sort of am.
Yeah, but you do that a lot, though. You'll pit yourself against someone else and say, well, that person deserves more than this person. I think you do that.
Well, maybe, but
I mean, we all do that. I say not even you. That's just a human thing to do, isn't it? Like me, being pushed down the stairs. Oh, but I didn't die. And some people have died from domestic abuse, so they should be talking about it. Oh wait, they can't. I should be talking about it. But mine wasn't enough. I'm not broken enough. Like I wasn't put in hospital. We have these doubts all the time. We gaslight ourselves.
Yeah.
We blame ourselves for the things that have happened to us and other people that we care about. So you can't pit yourself against someone else that's displaying feelings differently. Your feelings are still valid.
Yeah,
and they're not.
But
They're not in competition with someone else.
I know, but actually
your feelings are an important part of the whole picture, the whole puzzle of this story.
Yeah, but I'm coming at it from the angle that I'm coming at it from. She's coming at it from different angles. So you've got
and
two
that's
separate.
What I'm saying.
You've got two different angles there, haven't you?
But you don't answer the question like, "How do you feel?" You don't really.
Well, I do.
Off air, Dan just said to me he thinks the reason he doesn't answer this question is because he's an academic, which I think is so funny.
It was along the lines of, why are you less inclined to cry or whatever, and that's said,
and you said
probably from being an academic.
But you do cry.
Yeah,
we chatted about it a second ago.
Yeah, I know.
And you said you cry all the time. Not all the time, but like mostly when you're doing marathons. Honestly, and so I don't think you have a sort of toxic masculinity problem where you bottle things up too much, but you do that a little bit. Everyone does.
Maybe.
It'd be crazy to say that you don't.
Yeah, but I probably do that with everything. Like,
actually, you know what? This is how you tell people how you feel. I'm going to read you something. You're really into music, right?
Right.
This is an episode about Dan, I imagine, today, which is,
I'm sure we'll find a way.
That's really big of me, by the way, to not make this episode about me.
I'm sure we'll find a way around.
I'm sure we'll find a way back to me.
Yeah.
You connect, I think, with feelings through music. Like that's why you're so passionate about rock and metal, because it speaks out against society, right? And I only just noticed this recently, but you last updated you have a WhatsApp status. Did you know that?
Yeah.
And it was updated on the 31st of July,
right,
2023,
which
is like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I only saw it the other day,
because
that's how often I check it. And it says, this coffee's cold.
This toast is gross. I no longer feel the romance in these ghosts.
This coffee's cold. This toast is gross. I no longer see the romance in these ghosts.
Yeah.
And I did want to ask you about that. But
there's nothing in that. That's a brilliant lyric from The Hold Steady.
But there kind of feels like there is something in that.
Not really.
It feels like an existential crisis.
Not really.
Like you don't see the romance in these ghosts.
Doesn't
mean anything. It didn't connect with you at the time.
Not literally. I don't think so.
Okay. Well, fine. But if you could choose the lyric right now that connects to how you feel about the situation.
Well, it would be like Rage Against the Machine or something.
What lyric?
Well, just the whole concept of raging against the machine. And in this case, the machine is the system that allowed this to happen and allows it to still not really be talked about. But yet we're able to talk about the post office scandal over and over and over and over and over again. Although we weren't for some time, obviously. So that's where I'm at.
It's interesting.
Cheers.
It's interesting though, isn't it? Because it's like, I can see you getting emotional saying that.
I don't think I was, but...
Oh, okay.
I mean...
I'm trying to be your therapist and I don't know why I'm doing that. But
I think people are quite surprised when this comes up in conversation because it takes them off guard quite a bit. There's a documentary in this. There has been documentaries about this. And when I'm discussing this with people, they're quite taken aback when I explain the situation and then say, oh, so my mum's one of these women. And their jaw's on the floor and they can't apologize or be emotional quickly enough. And I'm like, that's great, fine. It's not really about that, but it is about that. But we don't need to have a whole period now where we get upset. Like, I just need you to reply to the fucking email that I've sent you.
We do actually. Let me tell you why.
I don't mean in this podcast. I mean
I know, but I'm going to just explain why that's actually wrong.
Right.
Intellectually, I'm going to explain why that's wrong. And I'm sharing this via my director of my show, Madeline Parry. And anyway, she's an Australian documentary maker, and she made a documentary where she went to an abattoir to see how meat was slaughtered, basically.
Right.
And it was so horrifying, and she was so desensitized to it in the end that she started doing all these interviews and then like making jokes about what happened.
Yeah.
And just being really blasé, like it didn't matter, and everyone's jaw was on the floor listening, and she didn't really understand what that was about, because she was like, oh. But then she realized, and she said to me, and it was quite an important thing to notice, like you need to ease people in. You can't just like land it on them and then not care, because they are going to care, because although you've heard sorry 1,000 times, they've never had that information before. So for them, when you deliver that news about your mum, it's very like shocking, and you should allow them a minute to just process it, rather than being like, oh, it doesn't matter, let's move on. And I get why you're doing that, but also just remember, like, people do need a second, and it is important. Because if they didn't care, they just moved on straight away, like, cool, let's.
But that is then what happens. There is a drama being made about this, and it's being made by Jed Mercurio of Line of Duty fame. Great. This is going to be massive. This is going to be big, huge.
Amazing.
And people are going to say to the government and to whoever's in government at the time, what did you do about it? Oh, nothing.
Yeah.
That will happen.
But that happens all the time. That's the same with...
well, I know, but it's...
that's literally... And it's funny to me, like, hearing you talk about that, like it's news. Like, it happens all the time. That's how gay people have ended up being in a better place with our rights. I mean, suddenly now in a worse place, but like, because people just ignore you until they can't ignore you anymore.
Yeah.
Like the HIV and AIDS crisis, like it was just ignored and brushed under the carpet. I mean, there's so many movies about that, and we look back in horror. But this is just normal. It's just a normal part of society. Yeah. And it's great that you're like fighting against that and trying to make noise about it.
But the thing is, over time, this system can't keep going. That every 6 months there's another scandal, and then like at some point, people are gonna have to stop being proactive and not reactive to whatever Stephen Graham's been casting.